The 25th September of the year 2000, 20 years ago, a basketball player named Paul Pierce was brutally stabbed 11 times and heavily beaten down in Boston. What we do know is that the incident occurred outside a former club in Boston, called the Buzz Club at 51 Stewart Street, and another club owner took over and is today called Bijou. The theory behind the incident was that Pierce had stepped in trying to stop an altercation and therefore getting stabbed for getting in the middle. But Paul Pierce himself had said that it was a setup. He was caught having conversation with a few females in the club, and one of the ladies he talked to was related to two of the men that had attacked him, because they had seen him talking to this female that was supposedly related to her and retaliated. A man by the name of William Ragland had been the person found guilty of executing the act of stabbing Pierce, and was sentenced from 7 to 10 years in prison, on top of a 25-year sentence after he had used a firearm against a group of people that led to one man in the group getting killed. One of his accomplices goes by the name of Trevor Watson, and was given 1 year in jail for allegedly hitting and kicking Pierce during the attack. Each of the men were acquitted of attempted murder, and the third attacker, Anthony Hurston, was liberated of all charges. Because there was no witnesses and evidence against Anthony, not even Paul Pierce himself could point to him as being one of the three men that assaulted him. William Ragland insists that he didn't stab Pierce, and at the 2002 trial, said this: "I'm sorry for the incident that happened, but still, the people that stabbed him are out on the street. To Paul Pierce, I'd like to say sorry for the incident that happened, but I never stabbed him and I never kicked him." Pierce got stabbed 11 times in many places on his body, like the face, the neck, and his back, which led to Pierce suffering from punctured lungs, and he was rushed into the emergency for urgent surgery by his former teammate, Tony Battle, who was at the bathroom at time when the events occurred. Tony Battle gave a statement regarding what happened, saying, "It was frantic. We didn't know how badly injured he was at the time. I guess it was probably better not knowing." As Pierce was laying in the surgery room critically hurt, he believed that his time had come. He asked the surgeon if he was gonna die. He had lost so much blood. He describes his survival as a miracle. His diaphragm was pierced, his lungs was punctured and almost stopped his heart.
And man, that night changed my life, man. I remember being at the hospital, banging on the hospital door, and asking, "Am I gonna die? Am I gonna die? I'm having shortness of breath." And it really changed my life for me to get through that.
Where you got stabbed at?
I got.
As for the trial and the case itself, there was a 3-week trial, with the two key prosecution witnesses changed a majority of their former testimony regarding the case. And the two key witnesses could not seem to point out Ragland, Watson and Hurston as the three men who had committed the assault and attempt of murder. Even Paul Pierce himself had a hard time and was ultimately unable to identify any of them. Defense attorney said that the police had rushed to arrest these three men because of Pierce being a celebrity. However, the prosecutor said that the police had made the right call, as they had found the right men after witnesses have come forward to identify the three men. It had turned out that the witnesses had changed their testimony out of fear that anything could happen to them. During the testimony they gave their statement to the grand jury, but changed it during the trial. Prosecutor John Pappas said they can't change it. One of the witnesses that lied later told the truth, when she was alone and nowhere near any of the defendants of this case. Watson's attorney, Martin Lepo, said there were no witnesses who could identify his client to be one of Paul Pierce's attackers. But he acknowledged that one woman said that she had initially seen Watson making stabbing motions at Paul with a knife, but later renounced her testimony. It happened, but who did it? Certainly, no one has selected Trevor Watson, Lepo said. Hurston's attorney, John Swamley, noted that even Pierce could not identify Hurston, and said the man Pierce originally identified as initiating the attack was much smaller than Hurston. Tony Hurston did not attempt to kill Paul Pierce. There is no evidence of it, Swamley said. Ragland got the longest sentence of 10 years on top of 25 years. As mentioned earlier, Watson, who had only gotten 1 year for assault and battery, also had another case on as he had stabbed a DEA informant on broad daylight. After everything that's happened, although the injuries inflicted upon Paul seem critical, he made it from the surgery and recovered. What's impressive is the fact that he returned to his third season with the Boston Celtics after the incident and played the whole season, while averaging 25 points per game, 6.4 rebounds and 3 assists and 1.3 steals. But was it that simple? No, not really. Paul Pierce, as you know, recovered and all, but scars were left behind in more places than just his body. He suffered from depression and anxiety in the aftermath and suffered from panic attacks. "I couldn't be near crowds," Pierce said, and added 24-hour security to guard his home after the attack. "If I got in a crowded place, I'd start shaking inside. It took me years to get over that. If I was walking and someone bumped into me or rubbed against me, I'd freak out."
Like after that, I was just like, I couldn't be in crowds. I'm like, something like that happened to you, man. It's traumatic.
Right. Especially when when you're going out, you ain't
Story a lot of people don't know. I had to have a 24-hour police surveillance in my house. That's how paranoid I was. Sit outside, and all I did was go to the gym and home.
And on top of it all, Pierce started receiving death threats, which led to his anxiety increasing even more, and he got more and more paranoid. He really didn't want to leave the house, and the police stood outside his house watching the door. He was messed up by this. When things were really bad for a while, he started talking to his family about how he had felt through everything. And it got better from there, and he realized that he should have gone to his family for help to begin with, and encouraged them to seek help when it was needed. Pierce's depression was really bad, and he never wanted to feel that way ever again. It was so bad that he really thought about killing himself because he felt as if he could not handle it. He also carried a gun for 2 years because of his paranoia. He had trouble sleeping and his mind really went berserk. He has admitted to wanting to kill someone just to get back some sense of semblance. But eventually things slowly but safely got better for him as he went back to the NBA 2000 to 2001 season and played. He went down as one of the greatest Celtic players of all time alongside Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen, winning a ring 2008, averaging 19.8 points. Paul Pierce was the player that got known for sitting on a wheelchair, being escorted out of Game 1 in the finals against Kobe and the Lakers.
Kobe Bryant knocks it down. And on the floor, this is Paul Pierce. Eddie Lacerte, their longtime head athletic trainer, quickly out there to check on him. Didn't see, he was in the midst of that crowd, exactly what happened. Certainly not the sight the Celtics and their fans want to see. Paul Pierce.
This is the sight that the Celtic fans want to see. And hear the ovation as he comes hopping out of the tunnel. Pierce has been a very durable player throughout his career, with the exception of last season. Rondo to Pierce. Pierce for three. Bang! Celtics back up by 1.
Pierce roll.
And the Celtic defense tremendous down the stretch. Celtics take Game 1.
Paul Pierce later revealed that it was because he had to go to the bathroom, faking an injury. but ultimately got the win and brought home the championship for the Boston Celtics.
So we'll come down the other way, shoot a couple of free throws with a half-minute remaining. And the Hawks continue for the...
The year of 2000 was a really hard year for Pierce, as he went through a lot of trauma, struggling with his depression, anxiety and paranoia. But still played the whole season. Paul explained that basketball was the thing that saved him, keeping him distracted from his inner conflict. He rather played basketball than sitting home, where he would think about the incident all the time. The court, practices and just sitting on the sidelines is what saved Paul, as he said that was the only time he really felt safe. He didn't want practices to end, because he was so afraid of going back to the real world, where he could get stabbed. The Celtics offered him consulting with a mental health expert, and Pierce regretted that he never took the advice. But he never went a bad route where he started using drugs or alcohol to process the trauma. He kept his mind and focus on basketball, which turned out to be the best thing. He beat out Kobe Bryant and LeBron James to capture the championship and won the Finals MVP and also made it to the Finals 2010. Paul Pierce is a future Hall of Famer as well, being one of the most underrated players of his time. Paul Pierce, the man who got stabbed 11 times and played a whole season, while struggling with depression and anxiety, who kept pushing forward and never gave up.